Hi, I'm Charla with Freezer Meals 101. Let's start by talking about containers. My personal preference is to use freezer bags, so resealable freezer bags. They take up so much less space than other containers do, and so that's really why they're my preferred method. I also encourage you to buy brand name freezer bags. You don't have to buy this particular brand, but I just have found that if we buy dollar store or no name brand resealable bags, they tend to leak or get holes more easily. So we've had better luck going with brand name. Most of our meals go in a large resealable bag. And then if we have extras, like shredded cheese or pasta that's uncooked that need to go in the meal when we're cooking it on the day that we're making it, then we'll actually put it in a smaller bag and staple the bags together. That way you have everything you need and you don't have to worry about that day realizing that you're missing one of the ingredients for your meal. This is just a really great tip for making things easier for you. So with the smaller bags, you can also use them if you're making meals for just one or two people, or sometimes if I'm making a soup, I'll freeze them in a bunch of smaller bags. That way I can take out one or two for lunch instead of making the full soup bag to feed the whole family. If there's just a few of us home, then I make some extra bags with the smaller ones. Another thing that I do with the smaller bags is, like when I was prepping for the meals today, I made some extra sausage. So I browned extra sausage and then I put some in a smaller bag, froze that, and then when we want to make some homemade pizzas or some breakfast foods and be able to throw some cooked sausage in, it's already ready. So these are very handy for a lot of things. The other thing that I have used before are these containers. Now they're reusable, which is really great. I appreciate that about them. They are microwave safe and freezer safe. So what I do with these is I make individual meals for my mother-in-law, and that way she can take them from the freezer into her microwave. This is the perfect size for single serving. These are really, really good. Something that I just started delving into are these silicone reusable bags. And the nice thing about this, of course, is it's more environmentally friendly. And I've tried out quite a few brands. And so just kind of at that stage where I'm seeing what brand is best as far as being leak proof. And so far this Reusable is what this one is called. I like it because, as you can see, it's bigger than some of the other brands, and so I appreciate the extra size, having a big family and all. Now, another thing that is used quite commonly in freezer cooking are these foil containers. I try to avoid using these because they take up so much space in the freezer, and I also feel like it's kind of wasteful. So I've been able to figure out ways to make the meals that normally people would make in this kind of a container and actually make it in a freezer bag. And I'll show you that in just a few minutes here. But there have been a few times where we just can't avoid using something like this. So an example would be, you've got this really amazing black bean and corn enchiladas recipe. And so for that, we do need to have everything sitting flat and, you know, holding its shape. And so we do use this kind of container for that. Now, the really important thing you need to know, regardless of what container you're using, is that when you're doing freezer cooking, air is the enemy. Air is what causes your freezer burn. So the important thing, no matter what kind of container you choose, is to make sure that there is no air. With the bags, it's really easy because you can remove all the excess air that you can. You can even stick a straw down into the bag and suck the air out if you want, or you can put it into some cold water to get more of the air out and then continue sealing. I've found that I've just gotten really good at removing the air myself, so I don't have to use those other methods now. But when you're using a container like this, in order to remove that air, what you have to do is put some plastic wrap or foil directly on the food and then put another layer of foil on top to completely seal, because you're gonna have a harder time getting rid of all the excess air in here. Next way is kind of neat, and that is to take a baking dish that you have at home and line it with parchment paper. And then you can put something in here. Let's say you're making lasagna. So you would layer your lasagna in here. You would have the parchment paper in here. You'd freeze it. And then when it's fully frozen, you remove it from the freezer, lift the parchment paper up, and then your lasagna holds its shape. So at that point, you can wrap it really tightly in plastic wrap and then a layer of foil, put it back in the freezer. It'll hold its shape so that on the day of cooking, you can set it in a baking dish, obviously unwrapping the plastic wrap and foil first, and then setting it in a baking dish and putting it in the oven when it's thawed. That way you can still use your baking dish because it's not held hostage in your freezer, and you can have that in the right shape that you need. So that's a little rundown on how we use containers in freezer cooking. I'm just gonna grab a freezer meal that I thawed this morning to show you how we use something that most people would make in a container like this, and how we make it in a bag and then transfer it into a casserole dish on the day of cooking. I'll be right back. So on our last big freezer meal session, I made some bags of this Alfredo tortellini bake. And there's different ways you can do this. You can add all different things mixed in there. So this one has bacon. You can do sun-dried tomato and spinach, or cooked chicken and sun-dried tomato. You can do mushrooms and frozen peas. Pretty much use whatever your imagination can come up with. And you can add a sausage into here, whatever you like with your Alfredo. Cajun chicken's really good. So anyway, whatever mix-ins you want. There's one large bag of tortellini in here and 2 jars of Alfredo sauce, along with some mozzarella cheese and Parmesan, and then whatever mix-in of your choice. So we did bacon. Normally, this is the kind of meal that someone would make in one of those foil baking dishes, but we did it in a bag, and it was able to lay completely flat when it was in the freezer. It's thawed now, so it's less flat than it was, but we had stapled our mozza cheese onto the back there. So on the day that we're going to make it, we just simply take the staples out, and of course, you want to staple above the seal so that you don't get any leaking. And then we just simply dump the contents of this bag into our casserole dish. And then we're just going to top it with this mozza cheese. Now, if I wanted to, I could take a spoon and get all that Alfredo out, but for the purposes of the video, I'm just gonna quickly toss this in the garbage and get to adding the mozza. So we top this with the shredded cheese and throw it in the oven. And as easy as that, you've got the full meal. So yes, I could have saved the step of having to dump it in and top it with the cheese if I had done that on the day that we had made it and made it directly into that foil container. But then I would have used an extra foil container, and it would have taken the same space to do that one meal in my freezer as it would take to do 3 of the bags. So for me, because I do so many freezer meals at a time, and because I really want to conserve the space in my freezer, space is of a premium. Therefore, I'm happy to do this tiny little extra step and have it ready to cook today.